Just picture and imagine some of the greatest minds and greatest intellects you've ever seen on earth. And imagine conversations with those guys like Stephen Hawking's, Bill Gates. A lot of these great minds, I don't know them personally, but a lot of them are atheists. Not all, but a lot. Some. And that hyper intelligence they have, that they always want to know the answer. Their equations, their reasoning, their foundation in science and all these concepts. Their intelligence always gets them to an answer. They can always find it. But when it comes to something like the meaning of life and why we've been put here and how we came to be and how we came to exist, it doesn't sit well with them that there's an answer sitting there that they don't have to work for, that they couldn't find out for themselves, and that it's already written that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, that Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5 to 6. Lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. It's the foundation, the blueprint, the platform is laid out there. But these great intellectual minds, you sit there with them and they'll still tussle with it. Intellect tussles with God. And these great minds, I don't know them, so I can only make an assumption. But a lot of them may never find that peace or that happiness or that contentment or that knowing, because they searched all their life for these answers and tried to come up with them themselves, but never found it. They could solve the hardest equations in the world that no one could, but the homeless person on the side of the street with God in their hearts, they figured it out and knew the answer. So they left their worldly possessions and they decided they didn't need material things, and they just lived out of their heart. Sometimes that intellect can cause you to tussle with God so much, to tussle with the truth in Scripture. It's there for us, but you get around circles of other intellects and people who are trying to find their own answers and do it their own way, and eventually that can rub off on you too. And that can become really hard to grasp and conceptualize. But man, if you just keep things simple, just keep things simple. It says it. You've got to have trust. You've got to have trust. There is no faith without trust. There is no faith without having to stare doubt and uncertainty in the face and still deciding to be 10 toes down. That's the test of faith. Faith is not about certainty. Faith is about being able to stand in uncertainty for something you believe in. A lot of intellects are, and I'm not here to frown upon people that are blessed with gifts of intelligence, and no, that's not what I'm here to say, but a lot of people with intellect are only willing to stand on something that they can prove 100%. A lot of intellects are only willing to stand on something that theory and their scope of evidence can point towards. And they say, well, you're going off of the scripture, you're putting your life into a box. Well, hang on a second. If you want to use these tests and these equations to say that this is why God isn't real, well, hang on. You can do that, but there's another box you're putting yourself into right then and there. This is a hard video to post because people might see this and say, you're full of it. You don't know what you're talking about. And yeah, okay, you can do all your works and you can do all your studies, but if your mind and your heart and your spirit is not open to something out there that's greater, if God chooses to, he might just prick you and get you and sneak in. But if he doesn't, if you're not willing to seek him, if God hasn't chosen you yet and you're not willing to seek him, you won't find him anyway. If you're looking for an excuse, you'll find one. If you're looking for a reason to believe, you'll find that too. Intellect tussles with God every day, all the time. My own intellect used to tussle with God, but that was intellect without experience. When I got exposure to the world, after already growing up in a world that wasn't exposed to Christ, I got exposed to more of the world that was out there. And I sought for everything everywhere, and nothing was there. And I was calling for Christ, and I didn't even know God. Out of all the things, that's where I called, and I got answers. That's my box. A box where I sought everything that I could in the world, and I was left begging for something more, and I got it from God. That's why I believe what I believe. Not because of equations and the Big Bang Theory and whatever Darwin did. I believe in a God called Jesus, and I believe in a God. End of story. My intellect does not wrestle with God anymore. If my intellect and ego gets in the way of my relationship with God, I put it aside and I squash it. God steers the ship. I just drive. I just put my foot on the accelerator, and God does the steering and the braking and the reversing when needed. I pray for you. I love you, and God love you too. God bless you.